we have the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts. Winner go home. We don't know. I believe that the winner would probably get the seventh seed,
Mhm.
unless Bills fall out of it and the Steelers end up making it. But who do you like early on in that matchup? When you think of Colts Texans, what does your gut tell you?
My gut's leaning Texans here because CJ Stroud coming back, I think he adds that extra boost for them. This is definitely going to be a very close game. I think this could come down to a field goal, but I'm leaning Texans here. I know that the NFL, if there is something with the refs where they are leaning for storylines, having someone like CJ Stroud in the playoffs will be more exciting for them than a Gardner Minshew. So I think right now my gut tells me Texans in like a 23-21 kind of game.
23-21. Yeah, I could see that because the Raiders gave the Colts a little bit of trouble where the Colts did have some explosive plays, but the way Antonio Pierce has been able to revive that defense and just the Raiders culture that they've really been missing for a long time. They haven't really had that defensive mentality coach
Mm,
since Antonio Pierce has
mm.
come. And maybe since like early John Gruden. And I feel like they gave the Colts enough trouble where I'd be able to see, okay, I could see a scenario where the Texans would be able to slow them down and beat them because the first game was kind of a beatdown in Houston, but that was a very young Texans team. So we could kind of see the full maturation of the Houston Texans, and then it'll come around full circle there. But I wouldn't be discouraged if I was the Colts because then you have Anthony Richardson coming back next year, a healthy Michael Pittman. You hit on Josh Downs in the draft. He's going to be even better next year. Alec Pierce is a very nice piece. And then Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor as a duo are incredible.
Yeah, I think these are both two teams that over they exceeded expectations this year. One of which obviously Anthony Richardson was hurt, but even with the Texans as well, like these are two teams that have so much to look forward to next year. Um, I think the Colts are probably a better team at this point, but I just feel the Texans right now with CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans that I think that they're going to be the ones that pull things off here.
Yeah. And then these are two quarterbacks that are kind of both clutch because Gardner Minshew, like a lot of people kind of just scoff at him when you say it, but there have been a lot of games this season where he's been able to lead his team to victory on last second drives and in a tough environment too. Like the Baltimore Ravens game was very impressive for me, where
Yeah.
he was able to lead them to victory in overtime. And then I think it was Tampa Bay that he was able to upset them and then break their heart. They were able to come back and win in overtime. And then I believe the Titans as well. And then CJ Stroud has had some of the most clutch drives in the league so far this year. I
Yeah.
mean, you want to talk about that game at home when they were trailing. He threw for damn near 500 yards and was able to bring his team back and
Mhm.
win that game. So these are two very clutch quarterbacks. Do you think it comes down to whoever has the ball last is going to win?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that yeah, it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last. I think that the defenses for both teams will play really well. I think this will be a low scoring game for the most part, but yeah, pretty much whoever has the ball last, it's going to be the one who gets the win.
Yeah, but I'll lean Texans here as well. So we'll slide the Texans into that seven seed. And then we have another basically playoff game here. It's not win or go home because both these teams will make the playoffs, but it's going to be very important, especially matchup wise. We have the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. We have two quarterbacks that kind of get flustered when there's a lot of pressure and things aren't going their way and start to turn the ball over in Josh Allen and Tua. So this is going to be in Miami. The last time that the Miami Dolphins beat a winning team other than the Dallas Cowboys was Buffalo a couple weeks ago. Ended up coming down to a last second drive. What's your early gut feeling on this game, and who do you think the NFL wants to win?
Oh, I think the NFL definitely wants the Bills to win. And I feel more confident in the Bills, believe it or not, at this point. I was not impressed with what I saw from the Dolphins against the Ravens. I wasn't really impressed with what I saw against the Cowboys, even though they won. I haven't been impressed with really any good team that they faced. And the Bills, they have their issues and there's been a lot of turnovers. They've played sloppy football, but I do think that they are a good team overall. And the NFL is going to want to see Josh Allen in the playoffs. So I think the Bills are going to be able to take care of the Dolphins. It's not going to be like what we saw last week necessarily, but I do think that the Bills will prevail in like a 28-25 kind of game.
Now, do you think the Dolphins could upset the Chiefs at all? Do you give them any chance, or do you think just with how bad they've been, on the road and then just up against winning teams, especially with Spagnola's defense, that it would really just be they're not gonna do enough against KC's defense, and
Mm.
Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey will be able to make a play.
Yeah, I feel like that Germany game, like I know it's an overseas game and those games I usually shouldn't take to value, but I feel like that's the kind of game I would expect in the playoffs with them. I don't expect the Chiefs to blow them out, but I also don't expect the Dolphins to put up a lot of points.
Right.
So I think that they're going to basically be able to mitigate Tyreek Hill, not necessarily contain him. And if they can do that, then I feel like it's more or less Tua who I don't trust in those big moments.
Okay. And so we have another scenario though. Say the Buffalo Bills lose
Mhm.
and Indy or Houston wins, then they would both make the playoffs. But Buffalo, there's still a chance they could miss the playoffs. Baltimore has already clinched that number one seed, so there's a potential that they could be resting players or not going as hard as could. Maybe you dodge some plays to avoid an injury here. But they are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last time they played them this time last year, they ended up the Steelers ended up winning. It was a Sunday night football matchup where Chris Collinsworth was going crazy about Kenny Pickett's arm angles. Do you think there's a chance that the Steelers can win this game and then foil the Bills season if they lose to Miami?
Yeah, but I don't want this. If I'm talking about what I want to see the playoffs with, I think the Steelers are going to win because the
Yeah.
Ravens, they're not going to start Lamar. They're not going to start, pretty much all of their offensive talent or any of these other people. But I think that the Steelers are going to win, definitely. The Bills kind of have to win this game against the Dolphins. So I do think that they're both going to, make that playoffs. But do I see it happening? Yes. And that would be very scary for me.